T. Clark here with the 2019 AP Computer Science A FRQ number 2. This question involves the implementation of a fitness tracking system that is represented by the step tracker class. A step tracker object is created with one parameter that defines the minimum number of steps that must be taken for a day to be considered active. So I have a constructor and the following methods: add daily steps, active days, and average steps, which return the correct number for each of them. So add daily steps accumulates all the steps once a day. So every day I do add daily steps, and then it goes to the next day. Then I have active days, which returns the number of active days. And remember, a day is active if it has the minimum number of steps. And then the average steps, which returns the average number of steps per all the days, calculated dividing by the total number of steps taken by the total number of days tracked. So right off the bat, I know I need a few um, instance variables besides just the parameter minimum steps. And the following table is example. So I have a step tracker, new step tracker with 10,000. So that sets up the step tracker. It says the days with at least 10,000 steps are considered active, and it will be positive, so we don't have to worry about that. Active days will return the number of active days, and obviously it's 0 because nothing's been recorded. Average steps will return the average steps, and it should be 0. And watch out for that. I'll talk about that later. Watch out for the 0. And then if I add days, steps, 9,000, and I add steps 5,000, that's 2 days I'm adding. 1 day with 9,000, 1 day with 5,000. But the active days is still 0 because neither of those met the threshold of 10,000 that I set it up with. And if I say the average steps, that's 14,000 divided by 2, which is 7,000. So there are 2 days. I have to keep track of the number of days, but also I have to keep track of the number of active days. And then I add steps 1,300, and that's active because it's more than 10,000. There's at least 10,000. And then if I do the average, I added all them up, and then I divide by 3, 2 more days, and there's only 1 more active day. This one is not active. And then if I divide everything after I added it up by 5, this is my result in a double. So it says write the complete step tracker class, including structure, instance variables, and the methods. So I'll keep it on this page, and I'll start my public class step tracker. Okay, the instance variables I need are first int for the number of steps, the minimum steps needed for it to be considered active. I need that active day count. So what do I want to say? I want to say days active, and I want total days. So those are my 4 instance variables. Next thing to do is the constructor. So public step tracker. And in the constructor, I need to have the parameter with the minimum number of steps that must be taken. So I'm going to say int min steps. And because I have the same name as the instance variable, I have to make sure I use the keyword this on the left when I'm setting it up. So I just assign that instance variable, and then each of the other variables I have to initialize to 0 because I haven't taken any steps. Total, there are no days active, and since I'm just starting, days total should be 0 as well. Make sure I don't have any typos on this. So we're going, yes, you could put the zeros up in the top, but I prefer putting all my initialization in the constructor. So that's the constructor. Next thing I need to do is the add daily steps, and again, it's public, and I'm not returning anything, so add daily steps has nothing to return. So it's blank, so it's void. So add daily steps, it takes in, it looks like just an integer. So add daily steps is an integer that's assumed to be positive, so I'll just say int new steps. So it accumulates information about the steps. So first thing I do is I say, okay, I'm going to add to my steps, however many in the parameter, from the parameter. Okay, since this does take track of the day, so I'm going to say days total increments by 1. So I added a day, so I have to add 1 day to the days total. And then I have to say if it's met the minimum. So if the new steps, in this case, is at least the min steps, then I can say days active increment by 1. So there's my add daily steps. First I add to the steps, I increment the total number of days, and if it's valid, or if it's at least the minimum, I'll add to the days active as well. So that's add daily steps. Next one is active days. So active days, it looks like it returns an int. Active days returns an int. Active days, yep. So I'll say public int, and let's zoom down a bit, scroll down a bit. Public int active days. And this looks like it's just a getter method, an accessor method. So I just return days active. And if you notice, I was very conscious when I made my instance variable, I made sure it was not the same as the class name. So days active is the variable, whereas the method name is active days. That way I don't get into weird recursion errors that might occur. So that's it for active days. The last one is average steps. So average steps returns a double, it looks like. So I need to say public double average steps. And again, active days and average steps, there's no parameters. So I keep the parentheses blank, but you must have the parentheses when you're creating the methods. So average steps, what does it do? It returns the number of steps per day, or the total number of steps divided by the total number of days. And I messed up days total again. Days total. Let's make sure I don't spell it wrong. Okay, I'm not done yet, because what if days total is 0? If I want to return a 0, is what I had talked about at the beginning. If I divide by 0, that'd be an error. So I have to say if days total is 0, return 0. So I have to check to make sure it's a valid, it's not going to give me an error. And then remember, steps and days total are both integers. So I have to cast one of these as a double. So I'm going to turn double steps into doubles. And you could put parentheses around it. I don't think you needed to. Oh, did it right. Or you could have casted days total as a double. But you cannot put double and then steps divided by days total with parentheses around the math. So that's the AP Computer Science 2019 FRQ number 2. Let's scroll up to everything and then slowly scroll down.